The Galactic Council chamber was vast, shining with silver light and filled with leaders from hundreds of alien worlds, each one proud and confident. They gathered to discuss humanity, a species they thought was weak, primitive, and unworthy of their time. The council members argued, laughed, and dismissed Earth's warnings, believing that humans would always bow to their demands. On Earth, far from the council's eyes, the planet was calm, almost serene. In the great command centers, humans moved with purpose, engineers and soldiers working side by side to prepare for something no one in the galaxy expected. Ships of all sizes were being built, their hulls sleek and strong, weapons silent but deadly, and systems advanced beyond the Council's imagination. Every warship, every fighter, and every command vessel was part of a plan that had been growing for decades, hidden from the spies and scouts who thought Earth was weak. Admiral Kale stared at the holographic map of the galaxy, his eyes sharp and full of determination. "This is the moment we have waited for," he said calmly, his voice steady, yet carrying a weight that demanded respect. "You all know your roles, your targets, and your orders. There is no room for mistakes." The human commanders nodded, their faces serious but confident. They remembered the Council's words, the arrogance and the insults, and each of them carried a quiet fire inside, a desire to prove that humanity would not be ignored. The engineers smiled softly, knowing their work had been perfect, that each ship was stronger, faster, and smarter than anything the aliens could imagine. Even the youngest pilots, barely 20 years old, felt the weight of responsibility. Yet excitement surged through them, for this was their chance to show the galaxy what humans could do. Meanwhile, on the Council planet, ambassadors reported the departure of Humo, Nady, from the negotiations. "The humans have left," one said nervously. The chamber erupted in laughter and mockery. "They walk away like children," another replied. "They are weak and they have no allies. They will return empty-handed," a third voice said. No one suspected that this quiet departure was a warning, not a surrender. Back on Earth, the fleet prepared for departure. Ships lined the hidden orbital docks, engines humming quietly, weapons charging in silence, and command centers buzzing with calculated energy. Admiral Kyle walked among the crews, shaking hands, offering words of encouragement, and reminding them of the stakes. "This is not just a battle," he said. "This is history in the making. The galaxy will remember this day." The first wave of ships began to move, leaving Earth's orbit slowly, carefully, yet with unstoppable power. Stealth systems kept them invisible to alien scouts. The Council would not see the movement until it was too late. Even the Council's best sensors could not detect the sheer size and scale of the human fleet hidden among asteroids and clouds of dust. Thousands of ships, small and large, each carrying a crew ready for war, moved with silent precision. The galaxy had never seen anything like it, yet the Council remained blind, confident in their own superiority. On the Council planet, the leaders continued their mockery, unaware of the threat gathering just beyond their eyes. "They have nothing," one said, still laughing. "They cannot match our technology, our fleets, or our experience," another added. But deep inside, a small doubt began to grow, almost invisible. The first reports of missing scout ships reached the chamber, but the leaders ignored them, thinking it was a minor issue. On Earth, the humans moved as one, every soldier, pilot, and engineer knowing their place and purpose. They had trained for this moment for years, for decades, preparing not just ships, but minds, strategies, and courage. Each fleet commander knew the exact coordinates, the best attack patterns, and how to strike the Council's forces with maximum effect. The young pilots adjusted their helmets, feeling the thrill of what was to come. The engineers ran final checks on weapons, shields, and engines, their hands steady despite the tension, knowing that this fleet was humanity's pride and shield. Admiral Kale watched the final ships leave, a quiet smile crossing his face. "Let them laugh," he said softly. "We have the power they cannot even imagine." And with that, the human fleet moved into the void, silent and unseen, leaving Earth behind, yet carrying its strength, determination, and unyielding will. The Council remained unaware, still confident, still arrogant, but soon the galaxy would learn that humans were not a species to underestimate, and the horizon was about to be filled with 1,000 warships, a sight that would shatter arrogance and redefine power. Far beyond the known borders of the galaxy, Earth's hidden fleet glided silently through the void. Asteroids drifted lazily around them, masking their true numbers from any prying sensors. Thousands of ships, from massive battleships to nimble fighters, moved with precise formation, each pilot aware of their place, their role, and the fate of humanity resting on their shoulders. Admiral Cale's command ship cut through the darkness, its hull gleaming under the distant starlight. He stood in the command room, hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on the holographic projection of the galaxy. "The Council believes we are weak," he said quietly. "They think our departure was surrender, a mistake they can exploit. But in hours they will see our strength, the fire they cannot extinguish." Below decks, engineers monitored every system, every weapon, every shield. Machines hummed in perfect harmony, and programmers adjusted targeting algorithms in real time. No Council scout could detect their signals. No alien radar could pierce the veil of stealth technology Earth had perfected over decades. Every warship was equipped not only with weapons of mass destruction but also advanced defensive systems, energy shields, and engines faster than anything the Council had ever faced. Among the pilots, a mixture of nerves and excitement filled the air. Young cadets who had trained since childhood now flew alongside veterans who had lived through skirmishes at the edge of the galaxy. Each pilot knew that the coming battle was not just about victory, it was about proving that humanity could never be underestimated. Lieutenant Mara adjusted her visor, her heart racing. She could feel the hum of the fighter beneath her, the pulse of the engines syncing with her own heartbeat. "This is it," she whispered. "The moment the galaxy will remember." The Council, meanwhile, remained blind to the movement. Their scouts reported nothing. Their sensors detected only empty space. "They have nowhere near the capability to challenge us," one counselor said arrogantly. "They are insignificant, a small world playing at galactic politics," another added. Little did they know, the humans were already in striking distance, hidden among asteroid fields and clouds of cosmic dust. Each ship ready to unleash devastation. Admiral Kyle turned to his senior officers, his voice calm but commanding. "Prepare the first strike teams, target their outposts on the frontier worlds. We will move quickly, silently, and without warning. Our goal is not chaos, but to show the Council that they can no longer ignore humanity." The fleet moved with deadly precision, silent engines masking their approach. Sensors scanned the Council territories for weaknesses, for patterns, for any sign of vulnerability. The pilots felt a mixture of fear and exhilaration, knowing the Council had never seen anything like this. Even the most confident alien leaders could not anticipate the scale, the planning, or the intelligence behind Earth's hidden arsenal. Suddenly, a scout report arrived, breaking the calm. A small Council garrison on a distant moon had detected movement, but the signals were weak, confusing, almost imperceptible. Admiral Cale smiled slightly. "They see nothing," he said, "and by the time they realize, it will be too late." The first wave of attack ships broke away from the main fleet, moving faster than light through the void. Their target, the Outer Council outpost, lightly defended and considered safe by the arrogant aliens. Within minutes, the fleet was in striking range, weapons systems online and ready. Each missile, each railgun, each energy beam had been tested and calibrated for maximum effect. The Council's complacency would be their downfall, and humanity's brilliance would shine like a beacon across the galaxy. As the fleet approached, tension rose among the crew. Pilots whispered words of encouragement to each other, engineers double-checked every system, and commanders reviewed final strategies. Even in the silence of space, every heart beat with purpose, knowing that the coming strike would send shockwaves throughout the Council and beyond. Admiral Cale stood before the holographic display once more. "The Council will learn the cost of arrogance today. Humanity will no longer be ignored. Let the galaxy remember this day, the day Earth rose with a hidden arsenal and showed its true power." And with that, the hidden fleet prepared to strike, silent, unstoppable, and ready to change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The Council had no idea what was coming. Their scouts reported only empty space, their radars showed nothing, and their leaders laughed at humanity's departure. But far beyond the outer colonies, Earth's fleet moved like a shadow, silent, deadly, and unstoppable. Thousands of warships, sleek and strong, carried the hopes of an entire planet, each crew member ready to make history. Admiral Cale stood on the bridge of the flagship, eyes fixed on the holographic display. "Targets locked," he said calmly, his voice echoing in the command room. This is the moment they realized the cost of underestimating humanity. The first targets were Council outposts on the edge of their territory, lightly defended and believed secure. Human strike teams moved in perfect formation, smaller attack ships weaving around larger battleships preparing to hit multiple points at once. Each missile, energy beam, and railgun shot had been calculated for precision, ensuring maximum impact with minimal waste. Engineers and weapons officers worked in harmony, systems humming perfectly. The silence of space was deceptive, for it carried the tension of an impending storm. Suddenly, the first warning signals blinked in the Council's command chambers. "Unidentified fleet approaching," a scout cried, panic rising in their voice. But it was too late. The first salvo hit before they could react. Energy beams tore through defenses, explosions rocked the outer stations, and Council soldiers were thrown into chaos. Communication lines went dead, alarms blaring across multiple outposts. Lieutenant Mara led her fighter squadron through the chaos, her ship dodging debris and enemy fire. She fired with deadly precision, disabling enemy cannons and clearing paths for the larger warships. Her hands moved with calm efficiency, her mind focused entirely on the mission. "This is for Earth," she whispered, adrenaline rushing through her veins. Each strike was swift, calculated, and devastating, leaving the Council forces confused and terrified. In the Council chamber, leaders scrambled to understand the attack. "This cannot be happening," one shouted, disbelief written across their face. "They said Earth was weak, a species we could ignore," another cried. But now their arrow, Gantz, was shattered, their defenses crippled and their fear undeniable. The Council had never seen tactics like these, never imagined humans could strike with such precision and speed. Back on the battlefield, the human fleet advanced. Ships moved like a river of steel and light, coordinated perfectly, each knowing its role, each contributing to the destruction of Council forces. Massive battleships fired long-range cannons, destroying enemy hangars, while smaller attack craft disabled weapon systems and shields. The Council forces tried to retaliate, but they were disorganized, panicked, and overwhelmed. Humanity's planning, training, and strategy were simply too advanced, too clever, and too unified for the aliens to match. Admiral Kyle watched the destruction unfold, his expression calm but proud. "This is only the beginning," he said. "The Council will learn that humans are not a species to be underestimated." Even as the first strike ended, silence returned to the battlefield, heavy and tense. The Council forces retreated, leaving damaged outposts in their wake. But the humans did not celebrate, for they knew the Council's power was far from broken and greater challenges awaited. The first strike had shown the galaxy humanity's strength. Word would spread fast, fear would ripple across the Council, and alliances would shift. But for now, Earth's fleet remained hidden, waiting, watching, ready for the next phase of the campaign. Each ship, each crew member, each pilot understood that this was not just war, it was a message. Humanity would no longer bow, would no longer surrender, and would never be ignored. Lieutenant Mara and her squadron returned to the fleet, their mission complete. They looked at the devastation they had caused and felt a quiet pride. Knowing that history was being written in fire and steel, Admiral Kale sent out a simple message to the fleet. "Rest only briefly, the Council will respond and we must be ready. But remember this day, the day Earth struck first and showed the galaxy the power of humanity." And in the Shah, doused beyond the Council's sight, the hidden fleet regrouped, silent and strong. The first strike had been a warning, a lesson, and a demonstration of what humans were capable of. Soon, the galaxy would see the full might of Earth's 1,000 warships, and the Council would understand that arrogance and underestimation could no longer protect them. The Galactic Council had never faced such devastation. Their carefully built outposts were destroyed, alarms screamed across their worlds, and panic spread like wildfire among their leaders. What they had dismissed as a weak species now stood before them with power beyond imagination. Their arrogance was shattered, their confidence crumbling under the weight of reality. Counselor Thorak slammed his clawed hand on the holographic table, sparks flying from damaged circuits. "How is this possible?" he shouted, eyes wide with disbelief. "They were supposed to be weak, insignificant, a species we could ignore, and now our borders are falling, our defenses shattered, and our fleets retreating." Ambassadors argued frantically, blaming each other, shifting responsibilities, and proposing impossible counterattacks. But fear had paralyzed their decision-making. Some wanted to fight, some wanted to surrender, and others simply froze, unable to comprehend the human fleet's efficiency. The Council's once strong alliances began to fracture as minor races whispered doubts and questioned the wisdom of standing with the powerful. Meanwhile, far from the Council chamber, Earth's fleet watched silently, hidden behind asteroid fields. Admiral Kale observed the chaos with calm precision. This is the moment we use not just our weapons but our mind. The Council is weak because of their pride, and pride is easier to break than any hull or shield, he said. Every human commander understood the plan, every crew member ready to exploit the Council. Sphere, small communication signals were sent to the Council, subtle but deliberate, messages that hinted at the fleet's full strength, strategic threats, and precise locations. The Council scrambled to interpret them, but the signals only heightened their confusion. Leaders whispered to each other, guessing, assuming, and misjudging the scale of the human forces. Every decision they made in panic played into Earth's hands, and Admiral Kale watched the Council stumble like a child, unsure of what to do. On distant moons, minor alien factions hesitated, uncertain whether to fight or flee. Reports of missing scouts and destroyed outposts spread fear. "The humans are everywhere," one commander muttered, trembling. "They are faster, smarter, and stronger than anything we imagined," another added. Even seasoned generals felt powerless against a species that had outthought them at every turn. Back in the hidden fleet, human strategists worked tirelessly, predicting Council reactions, adjusting formations, and planning the next phase. Each move was calculated to increase fear, confusion, and indecision among the Council. No human spoke of pride or glory, only focus and efficiency. They knew that breaking the Council's morale was just as important as destroying their outposts, and so far every strike had been a lesson in humility for the arrogant alien leaders. Admiral Kyle activated the fleet-wide communication system. Remain calm, maintain formation, and strike only when ready. The Council is fractured and fear is our ally. Do not waste energy on the weak. Aim for the core of their arrogance. Let them crumble under the weight of their own mistakes. Inside the Council chamber, whispers turned into arguments, and arguments turned into chaos. Council leaders accused each other of incompetence, sending fleets in the wrong directions, leaving gaps in their defenses. Some attempted desperate attacks, only to be met by precision strikes from Earth's hidden warships. The Council had underestimated humans, and their underestimation was proving fatal. On the front lines, pilots like Lieutenant Mara moved with deadly efficiency. They targeted communications hubs, supply lines, and key command centers, leaving the Council forces disorganized, isolated, and vulnerable. Explosions lit the darkness of space, shockwaves throwing smaller ships off course, and still the humans pressed on, calm, calculated, and unstoppable. The Council's fleets were no longer an organized force. They were scattered fragments of what had once been a mighty armada. Admiral Kale smiled as he watched the holographic display. "Fear spreads faster than fleets," he said quietly. And today the Council has learned that humanity is not a threat to be ignored. They have learned that arrogance can blind even the wisest, and the horizon belongs to those who plan, those who act, and those who never surrender. Even as the Council struggled, the humans prepared for the next phase. Larger warships shifted positions, smaller attack craft moved like shadows between them, and new targets were marked with precision. The first strike had shown Earth's strength. Now the Council's chaos made the second strike inevitable. And the galaxy would remember this day, the day humanity showed not just power, but intelligence, courage, and the will to survive. The void ahead was empty, or so the Council thought. They stared out from their command towers, sensors scanning, alarms blaring, yet nothing appeared. Confidence still lingered among the alien leaders, but the first strikes had shaken them. They knew something was coming, but no one could imagine the scale, the power, or the intelligence behind Earth's hidden fleet. Then it happened. From the darkness of the outer systems, a glimmer appeared, faint at first, almost like distant stars. But as the minutes passed, the glimmer grew, multiplying into thousands of shapes, vast warships moving in perfect formation. The Council's sensors scrambled to identify the fleet, but the scale was beyond comprehension. 1,000 human warships rose from the shadows, stretching. Across the horizon like an unstoppable tide of steel and light, Counselor Tharok's eyes widened, disbelief turning into panic. They cannot have this many, he whispered, voice trembling. Ships of all sizes, sleek and powerful, carried advanced weaponry, shields stronger than anything the Council possessed, and engines capable of unmatched speed. The alien leaders realized with horror that humanity had hidden not hundreds but thousands of warships, ready to strike anywhere, anytime. Admiral Kale watched from the flagship, calm and steady. Maintain formation, he said, eyes scanning the Council's territory. Let them see the full might of humanity. Let the horizon remind them that arrogance has consequences. The humans advanced slowly, deliberately, each ship radiating silent power. Lights glimmered along hulls, weapons charged and humming, engines glowing with energy. Pilots felt the weight of history, knowing that every movement would be remembered, every strike recorded in the memory of the galaxy. Lieutenant Mara led her squadron at the front, weaving through massive battleships, her fighter small but deadly. "This is our moment," she whispered. "The galaxy will never forget Earth." The Council scrambled to respond, sending fleets forward, but hesitation and fear paralyzed their command. Some ships moved too quickly, others too slowly, creating gaps in the defenses. Alien leaders shouted orders, but confusion reigned, and human sensors predicted every move. Earth's fleet was a living machine, moving with precision, intelligence, and a discipline no alien force could match. From the Council towers, the scene was terrifying. Lights reflected off metallic hulls, weapons glinting ominously. The sheer number of ships was overwhelming, filling the horizon as far as sensors could detect. For the first time, the Council felt the vulnerability of their power. They realized that their arrogance had blinded them to a force far greater than they had ever imagined. Admiral Kale gave the command to advance slightly, not yet striking. "Their fear is ours to use," he said. The Council forces watched, paralyzed, unsure whether to fight or flee. Every moment of hesitation was another victory for humanity. The humans did not need to fire a single shot to control the battlefield. The presence of the fleet alone was enough to break morale. Pilots and crew exchanged silent nods, the unspoken bond of purpose running through the fleet. Engineers monitored every system, ensuring the ships were ready to unleash destruction at a moment's notice. Commanders reviewed the Council's movements, predicting weakness and marking new targets. The horizon was alive with human power, an unstoppable wave of strategy, skill, and courage. The Council's panic grew, alliances began to fracture, and smaller races whispered of surrender. They had faced many species before, but none with this intelligence, this coordination, or this unyielding determination. The humans were no longer a distant threat. They were a presence, a force, and a warning. And as the horizon of warships stretched across space, it became clear that Earth was no longer hiding. The galaxy had to reckon with the power, the mind, and the courage of humanity. Admiral Kale sent a final message across the void, clear and calm. "This is Earth. We came in peace before, but peace was ignored. Now the horizon belongs to those who plan, those who fight, and those who never surrender. Let the Council remember this day, the day humanity returned to claim its place among the stars." And the horizon burned with thousands of human warships, ready to strike, silent yet screaming a warning. The Council had a choice: surrender, flee, or face destruction. The galaxy would never see humans the same way again. And the stage was set for the decisive battles to come. The Council had no time to recover. Their fleets were scattered, their defenses shattered. And panic spread through every world under their control. Reports came in too slowly, sensors overloaded, and alien leaders struggled to make sense of the human fleet. Every decision they made only exposed more weakness. And humanity watched silently from the shadows. Admiral Kale stood on the bridge of the flagship, his eyes sharp, his mind calculating. Now he said simply, "Strike with precision, strike with courage, and strike as one." The human fleet moved as a single entity, each warship, fighter, and command vessel executing the plan perfectly. Massive battleships fired coordinated energy beams, tearing through the Council's defenses. Smaller attack crafts slipped between enemy ships, disabling shields and weapons before the Council could react. Every strike was calculated, every movement planned, and every human crew member knew the value of patience, timing, and precision. The Council tried to retaliate, sending fleets from multiple sectors, but fear and confusion made them slow, uncoordinated, and predictable. Even their best commanders could not match the strategy of humanity. Alien warships fell one by one, explosions lighting the darkness of space, debris scattering across the void. Lieutenant Mara led her squadron through the chaos, her fighter weaving between massive blasts. She targeted command ships, their destruction sending shockwaves across the Council fleet. Her squadron followed without hesitation, each pilot trusting the other, trusting the plan, and trusting humanity. "This is our moment," she whispered. "We are the storm they never saw coming." In the Council chamber, leaders shouted, clawed hands pounding tables, voices trembling. "Pull back! Retreat! Destroy the intruders!" But their fleets were trapped, isolated, and overwhelmed. The human strategy was flawless, cutting off escape routes, predicting reinforcements, and turning every weakness into a trap. On distant worlds, Council soldiers looked up at the sky and saw the human fleet stretching across the horizon. Fear gripped every heart. Whispers of surrender spread, and morale crumbled. Even the bravest aliens felt hopeless, realizing that humans were not only strong but brilliant, united, and unstoppable. Admiral Kale watched the destruction unfold, calm but proud. "This is what happens when arrogance meets planning," he said quietly. "Every mistake, every underestimation is magnified, and today the Council learns the cost of ignoring humanity." The human fleet pressed on relentlessly, moving from sector to sector, eliminating key installations, capturing supply hubs, and neutralizing Council communication networks. The Council's attempts to regroup were futile, scattered commands and panicked fleets unable to match the disciplined, unstoppable advance. Humans exploited every opening, every mistake, and every hesitation. The galaxy had never witnessed such precise coordination, and the aliens realized too late that Earth had mastered not just firepower but the mind, the strategy, and the art of war. Back on the flagship, Admiral Kale addressed his commanders. "Today we do not fight for glory but for the future. The Council will remember our strength, our courage, and our unity. We fight to ensure humanity is never underestimated, never dismissed, and never ignored again." As the final Council defenses fell, silence returned to the battlefield, heavy and tense. Debris floated in the void, warships drifted disabled, and the remnants of the Council fleets fled in disarray. The humans had broken the chains of fear, arrogance, and underestimation. Earth's 1,000 warships stood victorious, a symbol of intelligence, strength, and unyielding will. Lieutenant Mara landed her fighter on the flagship deck, exhausted but triumphant. She looked at the fleet, at the warships that had struck fear into the galaxy, and felt a surge of pride. "This is humanity," she said softly, "stronger than anyone believed, united against any challenge." Admiral Kale sent a simple message across the void, clear and calm. "The Council has learned its lesson. Humans do not bow, do not surrender, and never underestimate the spirit of Earth. Let this victory remind the galaxy that arrogance has a cost and courage has no limit." And as the human fleet hovered across the conquered sectors, the galaxy witnessed the dawn of a new era. The Council had been defeated, their power broken, and humanity had proven its brilliance, strategy, and unstoppable resolve. The horizon burned with the light of thousands of human warships, a symbol that Earth would never again be ignored. The chains of fear and underestimation had been shattered, and humanity stood at the pinnacle of its destiny, ready to shape the galaxy in its image. The Council's fleets had been broken, scattered like fallen leaves in the void. Their command centers were destroyed, communication lines severed, and leaders trembled with disbelief. For the first time in galactic history, a single species had outsmarted, outmaneuvered, and overpowered the entire Council. Humanity had risen, not with chaos or luck, but with intelligence, courage, and unity. Admiral Kale stood on the bridge of the flagship, his eyes scanning the horizon. Thousands of warships stretched beyond sight, gleaming under distant stars. He spoke to his commanders, his voice calm yet commanding. "This is the moment we claim not just victory, but respect. The Council has learned that humans do not bow, do not surrender, and never yield. Pilots and crews across the fleet felt a quiet pride. Lieutenant Mara and her squadron had fought brilliantly, disabling the final pockets of resistance. Explosions faded into silence, and the once mighty Council forces fled in panic. The galaxy had witnessed the unstable power of Earth, and nothing would ever be the same again. From the Council chambers, desperation turned into pleading. Alien leaders sent messages begging for negotiations, for mercy, for understanding. But humanity answered with one simple warning, broadcast across the galaxy. Arrogance has a cost. Underestimation will destroy you. Respect the strength, intelligence, and unity of Earth. On distant planets, smaller races whispered in awe and fear. The mighty Council had been humbled, and humanity now stood as a force no one could ignore. Legends would speak of the 1,000 warships rising from the horizon, of a species once dismissed, now the arbiters of strategy, power, and courage. Admiral Kale watched the aftermath, calm and proud. "The galaxy must learn this lesson," he said quietly. "Humanity does not threaten for conquest. We strike only when necessary. We fight not for glory, but for survival and respect." Lieutenant Mara looked at the fleet and felt the weight of history. They had proven that intelligence, courage, and unity were mightier than arrogance and fear. Every ship, every pilot, every crew member had played their part. Earth had shown that underestimating humans was the gravest mistake in the galaxy. The final Council fleets had fled, and the surviving leaders bowed, not in submission, but in understanding. They realized that Earth's strength was not in numbers alone, but in strategy, courage, and indomitable spirit. The galaxy had been forever changed, and humanity now stood as a beacon, a warning, and a promise to all species. Admiral Kale sent a final signal across the stars, clear and unwavering. "This is humanity. We walk among you as equals. We fight for respect, not for dominance. Let no species forget the lesson of Earth and the 1,000 warships that rose from the horizon." The fleet hovered, silent and powerful, stretching across the void like a wall of light. The Council had been defeated. The galaxy had witnessed the rise of humanity, and as the stars glimmered above, Earth's warships remained on the horizon. A symbol of strategy, courage, and the unyielding will of a species that refused to be underestimated. The message was clear. The era of arrogance was over, the era of humanity had begun, and the galaxy would never again mistake Earth for a powerless world.